Part 83. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 821. Chapter 821. It's time to show real skills. Xiaoling reached out and hugged him. The child was very heavy, which made her legs feel numb. Under the light, she looked at the child's features carefully and smiled. I am a little fatter and taller than before, but the water and rice here still support people. Xia also smiled. Children are growing up. Xiaoling understood that it was not that simple. When she was pregnant with this child, she had an accident as big as a paraglider falling off a cliff. She was given antibiotics in the hospital. Later, she had a battle of wits and courage with Pei Xian. Not only was she exhausted mentally and physically, but she even accidentally drank the abortion pill. This child was born. When he came down, he was as weak as a kitten. If he hadn't been well cared for the day after tomorrow, it's hard to imagine that he could live in good health until now. The thin shadow of that time is no longer visible. She stroked Xiao Hui's cheek lovingly and said to Xia, "Thanks to you, Dad and brother." Xia also expressed some emotion. It was the biggest regret of my life that I couldn't raise you with my own hands. Later, when your brother took Xiaowai home, I raised him just like you. It's a pity that he and you I'm a boy like you, so it would be great if I were a girl like you. Xiao Hui heard this, and his little head popped out of Xiaoling's arms. Grandma, Grandma, let Mom give me a sister. She wants her to be beautiful and cute, and I will help you raise her together. After saying this, Dexia laughed again. Little guy, you haven't been able to support yourself yet. Xiao Xiaowai said seriously, I will be very good to my sister, just like my uncle is so good to my mother. He turned to look at Xiaoling. Mom, can you give me a sister? Xiaoling remembered that she was infertile, and felt sour in her heart, but she didn't want to spoil the child's happiness, so she just stretched out her hand and pinched his soft little face. Okay, wait until Mom and Dad get married. Even if she could have children, she didn't want to have another illegitimate child. She didn't want to go through the hardships of giving birth to Xiaowai over the years again. This is thanks to the fact that Xiaowai is a boy, and if he is raised rough, it will be rough. What if he is a delicate girl? Just the title of illegitimate daughter can make others point their fingers at her for many years. Xiao Xiaowai asked, Mom, when will you and Dad get married? Xiaoling pinched his face again. Wait for Mom to discuss it with grandparents. She raised her head and looked at her mother. Mom, Xiaowai will be almost 6 years old soon, and it's time to go to school. I plan to send him there. A private aristocratic school in City S. Before that, he had to have an identity to avoid being laughed at by his classmates in the future. Xia understood that she was referring to the status of legitimate child. She looked at her grandson and then her daughter. Have you thought clearly? Marriage is a lifelong event. Don't force yourself to marry for the sake of your children. The most important thing when marrying is your own happiness. Xiaoling said, yes. He is very good. Thousands of words can never be worth this kind word. So many years of turmoil have allowed her to see many people and things clearly, as well as her own heart. She wanted to be with that man, rich or poor, life or death. Xia said, I will discuss it with your father. Marriage is a big deal, especially in a family like theirs, and the etiquette cannot be broken. When Xiaoling heard this, she nodded slightly, hesitated for a moment, and then added, Mom, please advise Dad and brother not to embarrass him too much. Xia was startled and then laughed. Are you feeling distressed now? Don't worry, they have a sense of proportion. She knows her husband and son best. Judging from the scene when he came in today, that boy Lilei will probably take advantage of it. The opportunity to play chess coaxed the old man into submission. As for the silent words, he loves his sister as much as anything, and even if he dislikes Lilei, he can't really destroy his sister's happiness. She comforted Xiaoling with a few words and told her to have a good rest. Tomorrow night is the return ceremony, so you should go to bed early. Took Xiao Shuai and left her room. Xiaoling took a shower, changed into pajamas, and lay on the soft and comfortable big bed, unable to fall asleep. Outside the window was the chirping of insects, and inside the window was the dim light of the night light. She opened her eyes, her thoughts drifting, wondering what Li Lei was doing now. Have you rested? Did his father and brother make things difficult for him? Suddenly, I heard a rustling by the window. Who? She sat up alertly, half hugging the quilt. A person came over from the window and laughed in a low voice, "Shh, it's me. You scared me to death." Seeing clearly that it was Li Lei, she was no longer afraid. She reached out and pinched his face like she pinched Xiao Shuai, but with much more force. "You are seeking death," and climbed into my window in the middle of the night. A certain big boss did this not once or twice. I think back then, when the two of them were separated and getting together, he would often climb into the window. Li Lei was pinched by her and cried out, "It hurts." He reached out and took her into his arms, feeling aggrieved. "I miss you. After finally spending time with your dad, flattering him so much and making him so happy, he actually let me sleep in the guest room. Yes. Is there no justice? Fortunately, this little thing can't trouble me. It's just a window." The Xia family's defense is very lax. Before he finished speaking, there was a knock on the door from outside. Who? Xiaoling was extremely nervous, fearing that this guy would be discovered, so she suppressed his chattering mouth. The voice outside was very calm. "Miss Ling, I am Xiaoqi, and Madam has assigned me to serve you. Madam just asked me to deliver 2 glasses of soothing fruit wine, and also asked me to tell you and Mr. Li that tomorrow's return ceremony will consume a lot of energy. Yes, please make sure you two take a good rest." Xiaoling. She glared at Li Lei bitterly. Who was bragging just now that the Xia family's defense was nothing more than this? How on earth did he get discovered by doing something as simple as opening a window at night? Li Lei looked at her crimson cheeks amusedly, not sure whether he was angry or ashamed. As a thief, he was calmer than a thief catcher. He gave her a peck on the cheek, opened the door without any embarrassment, and took the 2 glasses of fruit wine on her behalf. "Madam, you are so thoughtful." He smiled charmingly at Xiaokui, who was delivering the wine, and his lazy and blurred eyes actually made the girl's face turn red. He arrived slowly and closed the door again. Xiaoling finally came to her senses from the nervousness and embarrassment, and rushed to pinch him again, with a fierce expression. "How dare you climb through the window when you go home for the first time? My mother discovered you when you climbed through the window." Huh. Li Lei, where's your technique? No. Wine. The wine is going to be spilled. The laziness on Li Xiaoli's face faded away, and he hurriedly protected the 2 glasses of wine, and finally put them on the bedside table under Xiaoling's claws. "You were so scared just now. Why did you come back to life as soon as the door was closed? You know how to show your teeth and claws at me, right?" Classmate Li Xiaoli has been bullied today. He pretended to be a grandson in front of clan leader Xia and Xia Moyan for a long time. I couldn't help but burst out. With a single movement, he accurately threw the arrogant girl under the soft quilt. He raised the corners of his lips and revealed an evil smile. "It's time for you to see my skills. I couldn't help but use this title, to commemorate my resentment of not being able to play LOL for a long time. There will be 2 more updates tonight." End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 822. Chapter 822. Xiaoling can't wake up. Xiaoling swore that she didn't want to see his skills at all. However, a certain boss was very active, and her protest was ineffective. She was forced to be pressed on the bed and wiped clean. Afterwards, she hugged the quilt and kept moaning. It hurts, she said with 2 bags of tears. The night was getting deeper. Boss hugged her contentedly, his voice was magnetic and hoarse. Where does it hurt? I'll rub it for you. His hands and feet became shaky again. Need your sister? Classmate Xia Xiaoling was so angry that she hit him with a feather pillow. However, her hands were so soft that she didn't have any strength, so the beating didn't hurt or itch, and she still had a smile on her face that didn't deserve a beating. You bully me, woo. She was unhappy and squirmed around, refusing to be hugged by him. Good boy, don't make trouble. Li Lei refused to let go, lowering his head and kissing the back of her neck. If you move any more, I can't help but want to do it again. I have to attend the ceremony tomorrow. The unclear voice disappeared. Around her neck. He swore that if it weren't for that ritual, he would make it impossible for her to get out of bed tomorrow. Now, it's so hard to endure it. Who is bullying whom? Xia Xiaoling was frightened. She felt a fiery change somewhere in his body and really didn't dare to move. Wow, bastard, you know how to bully her. She turned her back and ignored him. She was too tired and fell asleep soon. Seeing that she had calmed down, Li Lei also put his head on her neck to find a comfortable position, closed his eyes and fell asleep. Beside the bed, the 2 glasses of soothing fruit wine were filled to the brim, glowing dimly in the moonlight. The next day, Xiaoling really couldn't get out of bed. She was dragging her eyes out of bed by a boss with her eyes closed, still moaning, I'm so sleepy, let me sleep for a while. Li Lei found a blouse to change her clothes. Hand out your hand. Okay, the other one, while scolding her, Miss, you don't even know what time it is. I'll wash your face and give you clothes to wear now, even the shoes and jewelry have been matched for you. Isn't it a bit unjust if you don't wake up? Xiaoling still groaned, you hate. Li Lei was too lazy to pay attention to her, so he dressed her and combed her hair. He helped her sleepwalking into the bathroom, pushed her to sit down in front of the sink, and put a toothbrush into her hand. Take it, brush your teeth yourself, I'll order breakfast. Speaking, he walked out. Xiaoling didn't even open her eyes, she fell down on the sink and fell asleep instantly. When Li Lei came back with breakfast, he looked at her with both laughter and tears as she fell asleep, and reached out to pinch her small nose. Hey, wake up, are you a pig? Today is your big day. You are the pig. She closed her eyes and mumbled, as if she was dreaming, Li Lei, are you stupid? The moon grows in water, why did you set it on fire? Li Xiaoli. He shook his head in resignation and heard the doorbell ring. He walked over to open the door and saw an old couple standing at the door. The man was wearing a cloth shirt and looked elegant, while the woman was wearing a long family dress and had a noble temperament. They matched perfectly. He was a little surprised and called out, Dad, Mom. Clan Chief Xia said cheerfully, Xiaolei, are you up? Are you coming here to find Xiaoling so early in the morning? Li Lei smiled dryly. It seemed that only Mrs. Xia knew about his sneaking into the window last night. She didn't tell the patriarch. He said along the lines, I just served breakfast to Xiaoling. This girl is also lazy, I don't know who she looks like, Patriarch Xia said with a fond smile. Mrs. Xia, however, was not easy to talk to. Li Lei, we haven't changed the red envelope for you yet. Let's call you uncle and aunt. Even though she was so indulgent to Xiaoling last night, and she didn't object too much to the marriage, she really faced the future. When I became my son-in-law, I didn't give him any test at all. Li Lei felt a little depressed, but he could only say respectfully, yes, auntie. Patriarch Xia still happily watched his wife training his uncle-to-be, and asked, Xiaolei, where is Xiaoling in there? We have been talking for a long time, why don't we see this girl come out? Li Lei quickly said, she is here. She is here. Girls are slow to wash up in the morning. Clan Chief Xia nodded in understanding. Li Lei let them in. Dad, Mom, oh, Aunt, please stop standing at the door and talk. Come in and sit down first. I'll call her. The room prepared by the Xia family for their daughter was a large suite, and the outermost room also it has the function of dining and entertaining guests. On the small square table covered with tassel cloth, there is the breakfast that Li Lei just brought back. Chief Xia walked in and sat on the sofa by the window. Li Lei turned around and went to the inner room to call Xiaoling. Mrs. Xia had not seen her daughter for many years. She had a brief chat with her daughter last night. At this time, she couldn't help but said, "I'll go with you to call her." She didn't let Li Lei stop her and walked in. There is no one in front of the dressing table. There is no one in the cloakroom. There was no one on the bed. Mrs. Xia couldn't help but wonder, where did that girl go? Li Lei looked dazed. Go call her." He walked into the bathroom with ease and shook Xiaoling's arm. "Get up, your mother is here." "Liar." Xiaoling drooled from sleep and slurred her speech. "Don't bother me. I really didn't lie to you." Li Xiaoli, I was about to cry. Behind her, Mrs. Xia's voice came, "So where are you? Is this girl not awake yet?" She was angry and funny. When she used to follow entertainment news, she often saw this girl filming day and night upside down, getting up early in the morning to take pictures of the sunrise. It's common to go on location, so why didn't you notice that she was so sleepy? In the bathroom, the girl fell down on the sink, sleeping like a pig. Mrs. Xia stepped forward and called tentatively, "Xiaoling, get up. There are many things to do today." Li Lei was beating in his heart, fearing that Mrs. Xia said, "Really." When she turned around, she happened to see the 2 glasses of fruit wine sitting intact on the coffee table beside the bed. "Li Lei. It's so noisy." Xiaoling, a classmate on the sink, still grumbled, "Li Lei, I asked you to torment me last night, and you came to bother me again early this morning. Are you such a hooligan as you bastard?" Fell asleep again. Cold sweat broke out on Li Lei's face. Yesterday, Mrs. Xia had told them to take a good rest, but not only did he not let her rest, he also kept struggling for a long time, making her unable to get up in the morning. If the future mother-in-law finds out about this, will she immediately skin him? He carefully looked at Mrs. Xia's face. With sharp eyes, Mrs. Xia saw the suspicious red mark on Xiaoling's neck. Her expression was unfathomable, and she glanced at Li Lei. "I will tell others that Xiaoling is a little acclimated when she first arrives, so she will have a good rest in the room in the morning. In addition, she will also adjust all the preparations that require her participation in the afternoon. Take good care of her." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 823. Chapter 823 Phoenix Return Ceremony. Li Lei responded hurriedly, "Yes, yes." Mrs. Xia then turned around and walked out as calmly as when she came. Li Lei stood there watching her. One of his sleeves was hugged by classmate Xiaoling at some point, his cheek was pressed against it, and he rubbed his saliva on his hand. Mrs. Xia's footsteps suddenly paused slightly. Li Lei's whole body became nervous. He saw Mrs. Xia turn around, her eyes swept across the messy big bed, and then fell on Li Lei. "You have pretty good physical strength, huh?" "That's right, classmate Li Xiaoli." I was very proud. He suddenly realized that something was wrong and hurriedly explained, "What about that, auntie? Listen to me, accidents are all accidents." Mrs. Xia turned around again and left without comment. Classmate Li Xiaoli, I stared blankly at the direction she was leaving, wondering if she would be killed by Xiaoling this time. She slept so well this time that she pushed him directly into the fire pit. He didn't reflect at all on how beastly he was last night. His only thought was that his woman's body was too weak. How could she not be able to withstand the abuse? It seems that more exercise is needed in the future. He lowered his head and looked at Xiaoling, who was sleeping soundly, thinking of his wonderful sexual life. Xiaoling slept so darkly that she woke up in bed with the sun shining brightly at noon. Li Lei, who was guarding the window, said, "Auntie, do you still know how to wake up? Your parents came to the door and killed each other." "Ah, my parents are here." Xiaoling was shocked, her beauty turned pale. They didn't find anything, right? Although they both have children, she would still be worried if someone bumped into her when she returned to her parents' home for the first time. "Shy," Li Lei said calmly, "how can you do it as long as I'm here? Your mother thought you were acclimated, and she told me to take good care of you. Get up quickly, the clan has to change your clothes and put on makeup. This alone requires a lot of work. It took a long time." Xiaoling got up dizzy. She felt her body was still very sore and couldn't help but groan. Li Lei looked at her with disdain. "Your physical strength is so weak. Tonight we..." "Don't even think about it tonight." Xiaoling was so bitter and resentful that she hit him with a feather pillow again. "If you climb into my window again, I'll call the police." The two of them were fighting and making trouble, but it was not easy to clean up. As expected, the tribe's makeup artist was waiting, and there were many other tribesmen who were busy changing her clothes, putting on makeup, and styling her hair for several hours. By the time everything was done, it was already dark. The ceremony began soon, and someone guided her out. The sky is filled with stars, and clusters of torches in the mountains are winding like dragons, lighting up the entire night sky. The Phoenix's return ceremony was very solemn, and everyone from the clan, men, women, old and young, came to participate. The crowds of people were lined up on the mountain road according to their status. They were all wearing blue-gray clothes and looked solemn. Even though there were so many people, the whole mountain was silent, so quiet that you could hear the sound of torches peeling off. Xiaoling walked up the mountain road in the center under the guidance of two female waitresses in gray clothes. The mountain road is made of real white jade, and the steps going up are covered with bird feathers. She stepped on that gorgeous and colorful land, as light as walking on the sky. The train of her exquisite dream-like white dress spread out and trailed behind her, like a gentle ripple across the ocean of feathers, creating colorful ripples. So beautiful, many people in the crowd couldn't help but think, it really is a phoenix. They looked at Xiaoling with admiration. In the Xia family, everyone had heard the legend of the phoenix since they were young. Legend has it that the phoenix has a rough fate. It bears the karma of heaven and earth for the entire family. It is the most noble person in the family than the clan leader and the national master. The presence of blasphemy. Every phoenix is a treasure for the entire family. However, from generation to generation, only this one has achieved nirvana and returned. This point alone is enough to devote all the intelligence of the whole clan to respect and protect. They watched her step by step towards the altar in front of the ancestral hall. Behind her, birds gathered one after another. At first there were 2 or 3. With her footsteps, there were more and more birds, dancing gracefully, and their sweet chirps continued in the mountains. Echo. No one dared to speak and looked at the scene with awe. It is said that when she was born, she had visions of heaven and earth, with birds flying around the house. Originally many people thought this was just an exaggeration, but today the vision reappeared. They discovered that it was not an exaggeration at all. 100 birds came to the phoenix. There were literally hundreds of birds of all kinds gathered behind me. Each breed is not duplicated. I didn't even know there were so many kinds of birds in the mountains. There are people who have lived in this mountain all their lives, and now they are amazed. They became even quieter and even bowed their heads respectfully in worship when Xiaoling passed by. Xiaoling kept moving forward without looking back. She didn't know that so many birds had gathered behind her, but she could hear the sweet chirping of the birds. This cry made her relax her somewhat nervous mood. It was an indescribable and close feeling. She raised her head and walked up step by step. On the altar above, Master Xiaomoyan, also wearing white clothes, was looking at her sister with a peaceful expression. She walked to her brother and stopped. Xiaomoyan's voice was filled with unprecedented solemnity. "Today, you will regain your real name." He recited a long eulogy and raised his left hand. "Bring it up." A grey-clothed maid brought two stumbling people up, who turned out to be Father Ye and Aunt Lu. Xiaomoyan's voice became more solemn. "Ye Zhongxiao, Lu Zayadai, you are the physical parents of my Xia family phoenix in this life. Everything you do for her will be rewarded. When fate is over, tonight, the phoenix will return her blood here. From now on, we will be cut off from the Ye family and have nothing to do with each other." A maid came up with an exquisite dagger with complicated totems carved on the handle. Xiaomoyan took it and aimed it between Xiaoling's eyebrows. Xiaoling looked at him motionless. She knew that her brother would not hurt her. Xiaomoyan pierced the center of her eyebrow with a very light technique, and a drop of bright red blood fell, which was caught by him in a jade bowl. The clear water in the bowl quickly turned a light red under the influence of blood. Xiaomoyan handed the bowl to Xiaoling's hand. Xiaoling held the jade bowl in her slender white hands, walked up to the Ye family step by step, and sprinkled the blood in the bowl at their feet. "The relationship is severed and the two have nothing to do with each other," she said. Father Ye looked at her. Under the reflection of the torch and starlight, he showed a look that was both sad and unwilling. He trembled his lips and finally uttered a voice, "The relationship is severed and the two have nothing to do with each other." This is the sacrificial process that they were informed about in advance. Yes, father didn't expect that it would be so difficult at the moment when the words came out of his mouth. Can a relationship really be severed? At this moment, he just felt empty and uncomfortable. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 824. Chapter 824 Master-Servant Contract. Xiaoling only felt a slight sting between her eyebrows. Faintly, something invisible and intangible seemed to disperse from the center of her eyebrows, followed by a lightening of her heart. She had a feeling that the girl whose real name was Ye Xingling had disappeared into thin air. That is a very wonderful feeling, it is difficult to describe. When she was reborn from Nirvana, she inherited the memories of the original owner of her body, but now, she knows that those memories are far away from her. Although she still remembers what happened to the original owner of the body, it is because she checked the memory of the original owner of the body, not because the memory of the original owner itself is still stored in the body. She looked up at the night sky. Among the endless stars, a weak star seemed to twinkle at some point. She silently prayed, "Ye Xingling, thank you, I hope you will be well in the next life." The star twinkled once, as if in response to her prayer. A maid who assisted in the sacrifice came up and took Father Ye and Aunt Lu down. Yes, father was in a very depressed mood. He just got off the stage and within a few steps, he fell down on the roadside of the mountain. He lowered his head and held his head with both hands. "I'm sorry for this kid," he murmured. The moment the relationship was severed, the love between father and daughter, which had long been buried and almost disappeared, resurfaced in his heart. He remembered his daughter's pure eyes when she was just born, being praised by the teacher for the first time in kindergarten, and smiling while holding a little red flower. Be happy, and there are many bits and pieces of the past. When did it start? It seems that since he met Aunt Lu, the relationship between father and daughter has gradually become estranged. During that time, he often quarreled with her biological mother and smashed everything in the house. The little girl huddled in the corner. With tears in her eyes, she whispered, "Stop arguing. but no one paid attention to her. Later, during the divorce battle, the couple couldn't even bother to cook for their children. One night late at night, he heard a loud noise in the kitchen. He rushed over and saw that the child had accidentally knocked down a pot. The boiling water splashed on the child's feet and caused several big blisters. He was in a bad mood, furious, and shouted loudly, "Damn girl, what are you doing?" The 5 or 6-year-old daughter had 2 bags of tears in her eyes and her voice was as low as a mosquito, "I'm hungry." What bad luck. At that time, he was young and energetic, and he was angry at her. "Eat, eat, eat, you know how to eat. I raised you to such a great extent that you will be successful and ruined. When your mother and I divorce, you should follow her as soon as possible. Come here, don't get in the way in front of me." He had already agreed with Aunt Lou that he would leave the house and marry Aunt Lou. The little girl's feet hurt, but her father scolded her so much that she didn't dare to say a word. She was hungry and hurt, and she cried all night. The next day, the child's mother saw him, and the child's mother decided to divorce him on the spot. He originally thought things were going well, but who knows, the child's mother died in an accident. This little girl became a burden that he couldn't get rid of, forcing him to have to keep her as a dragster while marrying a new wife. Under the brainwashing of his new wife, Aunt Lou, the more he looked at her, the more he disliked her. Gradually, I no longer showed my daughter any care or kindness. Now that I think about it, I really owe her a lot. It is not easy to be a father and daughter for the rest of his life. He only thought about cherishing it until he lost it. At night, the mountain breeze brought waves of coolness. Aunt Lou stopped beside him and said, "What are you doing? Look at how useless you are. You can't even control a stinky girl and let her fly to someone else's house with her wings stiffened. How dare you do it? Who could show such bitterness and hatred?" She cursed for a long time, to the effect that Xiaoling had no conscience. Yes, father was very upset. For the first time in his life, he felt that Aunt Liu's words were so harsh. At the altar, the phoenix return ceremony continues. Xia Moyan, who was dressed in the white robe of a national master, spread out a long scroll on the jade table. The scroll was a genealogy. He found Xiaoling's name next to his own name, a direct descendant of his family, and added a line of small words with a red pen, "Return of the Phoenix." After finishing writing, he raised the scroll high and the crowd cheered loudly under the altar. "The Phoenix has returned," he shouted. "Phoenix returns," the crowd below echoed. Xiaoling stood on the high altar, looking at the admiring eyes below. In a daze, she felt a little bit real in her heart. She had really gone home. She is no longer worried and homeless. From now on, she will also have a family. A smile appeared on her lips and she raised her hands high. The cheers were deafening. Xia Moyan said, "Bring the sycamore tree up." Someone led Li Lei to the altar. This man was wearing the same white shirt as her tonight. The corners of the clothes were embroidered with complex dark patterns, and the lapels were open, revealing a well-proportioned and tight chest. He was brought to Xia Moyan. Xia Moyan changed his dagger and looked into his eyes. Li Lei stared at him calmly, but his heart was pounding, wasn't it? The last time his brother-in-law bled him, the cut hurt so much. Could it be that he had to do it again this time? If it wasn't for Xiaoling's sake, he would really have run away. Xia Moyan had no expression on his face as he pointed the dagger at his heart and stabbed it into his heart. The huge pain he imagined did not hit him. This time, the Imperial Master let him go easily and only took a drop of his hard work step by step. The heart is filled with essence and blood, which condenses a person's energy and spirit. It is also the most effective medium for casting spells. Xia Moyan put the drop of blood into a bowl, dissolved it in unknown medicinal materials, and brought it to Xiaoling. "Drink it." Xiaoling obediently took the bowl and drank it. Xia Moyan put the bowl back to its original place, looked at the two of them, and a solemn voice came, "This drop of essence and blood will become your bond forever. Even if you are reincarnated, Wutong, you will always serve Phoenix and give up your heart. Tread on the ground. This is the revenge of the Xia family." Originally, Phoenix and Wutong could establish a two-way bond. Wutong would always love Phoenix deeply, and Phoenix would always love Wutong deeply. They would love each other forever. But, what happened this morning happened. Mrs. Xia calmly walked out of her daughter's boudoir and went straight to her son. What kind of contract was used in the return ceremony? Xia Moyan looked coldly, "I haven't decided yet. The two-way contract is a bit too cheap, kid." "Then use the master-servant contract," Mrs. Xia said lightly. Xia Moyan glanced at her mother in surprise. "You don't like that kid either?" Mrs. Xia smiled, "He is good, but his ideas are too big and he is unruly. I am a little worried that your sister will suffer a loss in the future. It is better to have a master-servant contract. For eternity, he will love your sister with all his heart, follow her and protect her. But your sister can have more choices, love or not, it's all about freedom." End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 825. Chapter 825 Never Give Up. Xia Moyan nodded, "It's exactly what I want. As a mother-in-law, what I consider is how to protect my daughter and keep a tight rein on my brother-in-law. The Xia family is unattainable, and asking for marriage can bring huge benefits, but it does not come without costs. Only by being betrothed forever can one be worthy of being married to a phoenix." Thus, without Xiaoling and Li Lei knowing anything, the matter was settled. Xiaoling heard her brother's statement and looked at him in surprise, then turned to look at Li Lei. Li Lei's expression remained as usual, "I am willing to protect Xiaoling forever." The ceremony is completed. Fireworks were lit up in the night sky to celebrate the return of the phoenix. Amidst the lively celebrations, several people stepped back from the altar. Before they had gone far, Xiaoling grabbed her brother and asked, "Serving forever, what's going on?" Xia Moyan looked calm, "He will love you forever and ever." Xiaoling was silent. Xia Moyan said, "Tonight is an all-night banquet, with wine, meat, singing and dancing. You guys have a good time to relax. You are tired." Over the years after saying that, he excused himself and left the two of them. In the night sky, the fireworks are still gorgeous and magnificent. Xiaoling felt a little depressed and sat down on a big rock next to her. "It's cold here, let's go sit inside," Li Lei said. "Why are you unhappy?" Xiaoling raised her head and looked at him. "Will you love me forever?" Li Lei was startled. "Why not? My brother said that I will always be yours." "Are you always mine?" she asked softly again. Li Lei smiled. "What's wrong with you today? Returning to the family and signing a contract are all good things. Why are you so weird after the ceremony is completed? Is it because you are not used to your new identity?" Xiaoling was silent for a long time and did not speak. She really wanted to ask Li Lei, what should he do if one day she no longer loves him, but he is still stuck in it and cannot extricate himself, and even cannot get rid of his love for her forever? Sauvignon Blanc is heartbreaking. The only thing more painful than Sauvignon Blanc is unrequited love plus Sauvignon Blanc. However, she didn't dare to ask. The question was too disappointing and she was afraid that he would be sad. She cheered up and forced a smile. "I'm fine, I'm just a little tired. You suddenly became mine, which gave me the illusion of getting married early." But she made up her mind to ask her brother if the contract was valid. "There is no way to untie it?" Li Lei breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Silly girl, we already have children, and we should have gotten married a long time ago. When I go back this time, I will invite a big matchmaker to come to propose marriage, and hurry up and get the marriage done." She nodded, "Okay." There was a slight warmth in his eyes. He also called her stupid. In fact, he himself was so stupid that it made people feel bad. Do he know what the eternal contract means? So unfair. Perhaps, with his intelligence, he had long been like a mirror in his heart, but he was still willing and even happy. How much does he love her? She couldn't help but put her arms around his waist and buried her head on his chest. I will do everything I can to be good to you. This was her promise. At this moment, she told herself that she was responsible for him. Never change your mind. What a silly girl. Lily still laughed at her, the bright fireworks reflected in his eyes, as gorgeous as a dream. He looked very happy, holding her hand and blending into the crowd of people at the celebration. Over there, Aunt Lou went to the banquet to get a lot of food and returned to Father Yet. Come on, you will often have this roasted hare meat with passion fruit. It's so delicious. How can it be so delicious? And this salmon fillet, I don't know what kind of fruit wine is made from it, wild mountain mushrooms. I'm telling you, Lao Ya, this experience was not in vain. I didn't expect such delicacies to exist in this remote country. No wonder the housekeeper hurried to Haikao and said that the rice here costs 100,000 yuan. She was shouting loudly while eating, foaming at the mouth. Yes, father was still immersed in a sad mood, not very interested, and didn't say anything. Aunt Lou grabbed a piece of meat in her hand and bumped him with her elbow. Hey, go get me some pig's trotters. I want the kind marinated in red wine. I just saw someone eating it over there. It's so fragrant, simply amazing. Yes, father stood up sadly and went to serve her the pig's trotters. When the pig's trotters were brought back, Aunt Lou said, I tell you, Lao Ye, come and eat quickly. One is enough for me, but two are not a loss. When we were leaving, we asked them to make something for us and give it to Fi Fei. Take it back and let her taste this pure natural and pollution-free delicacy. Why don't you say anything? What are you thinking about? I tell you, that stinky girl must be someone else's daughter. It's useless for you to think about it in the future. It's Fi Fei who will support you until your death. Father Ye came back to his senses, smiled bitterly, picked up a pig's trotter and stuffed it into his mouth. Aunt Lou praised, that's right. No big deal is bigger than eating. Come on, eat more. Don't worry, these mountain people really seem to have some money. They have good food and clothing. After living here for 2 days, even if she was blind, she could tell that this place was not poor. Although she had not yet realized how much money the Xia family had, at least they were wealthy. Her mind was aroused again, thinking about how to get more money back. The two of them were eating when suddenly, a Xia clan member came over and struck up a conversation. Are you Mr. Ye and Mrs. He yet? It's a pleasure to meet you. Aunt Lou was eating vigorously when she was suddenly disturbed by someone. She raised her head and glanced at the person. I saw that the person was a middle-aged and elderly woman with gray hair. Although she was wearing a Sion sacrificial dress of good material like the rest of the tribe, she could not hide her sallow skin and weathered face. Aunt Lou asked while eating, who are you? My name is Xia Shajuan, Mrs. Ye, you can just call me Shajuan. It was the first time that Aunt Lou was called Madam. She felt quite fresh and contented, and her favorability towards Shajuan increased rapidly. She smiled and said, it turns out to be Shajuan. Come on, come and sit. Don't be so polite. Come drink and eat meat. Xia Shajuan followed her instructions and sat next to her. After eating 2 symbolic pieces of meat, the two women chatted. Xia Shajuan said, Mrs. Ye, congratulations. You are so lucky to have a Nirvana phoenix in your family. Aunt Lou sneered, what's the use? Didn't you see that the parent-child relationship was severed on the altar? You can't say that, Xia Shajuan said, I heard that families who have been fostered by phoenix will be blessed. TCH, what kind of blessing? I haven't made back the money I spent raising her all these years, Aunt Lou said exaggeratedly. Suddenly she remembered something and asked curiously, You guys keep saying she is from Phoenix, why didn't I read it? Come out. Can you tell me why she is a phoenix? So you don't know yet, Xia Shajuan said. This phoenix is actually just a legend circulated in the Xia family. It is said that she will be reincarnated. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 826. Chapter 826. My daughter's name is Xia Yu. You can actually be reincarnated. Aunt Lu was surprised. Is there such a thing? Who knows, Xia Shajuan said, it has been passed down from generation to generation. It may be the same as the reincarnation of the Lama in XZ. It is said to be this way, but it may not mean that it is a real reincarnation. It is too mysterious. Aunt Lu was no longer so surprised now and nodded in understanding. It's just a bluff. Xia Shajuan looked around and said to her, "Mrs. Yeah, you have to keep your voice down. Saying this is disrespectful to Phoenix and will make the entire Xia family an enemy. But don't say this. People are saying that your Yexin Ling is the reincarnation of Xia Ling. Everything from her singing to her temperament is so similar." Aunt Lu was startled again. Xia Ling? Which Xia Ling are you talking about? Which one else could there be? Xia Shajuan said. Isn't it the diva and star who became famous all over the country in the past few years and was adopted by the Emperor Peizian? Isn't Xia Ling dead? Aunt Lu was startled. Why does that stinky girl Xia Ling look like her? Wait, you mean that stinky girl is the reincarnation of a phoenix, that is, the dead Xia Ling's reincarnation? What's the relationship between Xia Ling and your family? Hey, don't you think this is obvious? They all have the surname Xia. Aunt Lu was so frightened that her eyes widened. That Queen Xia Ling is a child of your family. Her biological parents are from this valley. Xia Shajuan slapped her thigh. Isn't that right? You also know her parents. They are our clan leader and his wife. So as soon as they realized that your girl was the reincarnation of Xia Ling, they couldn't wait to recognize her. Oh my god, big gossip, definitely big gossip. The biological parents of the late Queen Xia Ling have been found. How much would this news be worth if sold to reporters? The more Aunt Lu thought about it, the more excited she became. She couldn't help but hold Xia Shajuan's hand. Quick, tell me carefully. Seeing her interest, Xia Shajuan showed a secret smile on her withered face and said, "Mrs. Yeah, I really want to have a good talk with you, but I have something on my mind. When I think of Miss Ling, I think of my lost wife. My biological daughter, who has been with me for many years, was so saddened by the situation that I really can't talk about it anymore," she said, wiping the non-existent tears from the corners of her eyes with her hands. Aunt Lu wanted to dig up gossip and sell it for money, so she asked enthusiastically, "Old sister, what is on your mind? Tell me quickly, don't hide it. You see the two of us chatting so well, it also makes my sister help you. Maybe I can solve this problem." Xia Shajuan looked at her suspiciously. "Sister Ye family, are you really willing to help me?" In this short period of time, the two of them have become like sisters, and their conversation could not be more lively. Aunt Lu vowed, "Of course. Everyone in our family knows that I am the most enthusiastic. If I can help, I will definitely help." "Right," Lao Yeshi poked Ye next to her with her elbow. "Father." Father Ye nodded silently, and his heart was filled with turmoil. What, that girl Xiao Ling could be the reincarnation of a big star. However, the age is wrong. When Xiao Ling died, this girl was already 15 or 16 years old. How on earth could she be reincarnated? She wasn't possessed by a soul, right? Father Ye shuddered as he recalled the big change in her personality between her childhood and now. The matter is related to his own daughter. Even though this daughter has severed ties with him, his blood still flows through her body. His curiosity was aroused and he wanted to know more. Xia Shijuan came to them for help. What she said before was just to make the fish take the bait. At this time, seeing that they were impatient to help, she said, "Actually, my thoughts are very simple. I just want to find my biological daughter who has been separated for many years. In fact, you should have heard of her. She is Xia Yu, who was killed by Miss Ling, the sister who was brought to the emperor. Aunt Lu has long passed the age of chasing stars. Fortunately, she still has a daughter who chases stars. I remember that before Ye Xingfei's car accident, when Xia Ling was at her peak, her daughter often recited the names of popular stars, so she vaguely recalled the one named Xia Yu. Yes, yes, I have heard of her, old sister. I didn't expect that your daughter is also a celebrity." Aunt Lu had a fake smile on her face, flattering Xia Shijuan, and wanted to coax her to get better, and to find out more, lots of insider information. Xia Shijuan sighed, "What a celebrity. He was homeless when he was just a baby. I don't know which human trafficker did it. My daughter left me at a young age. It was not until later that they were sisters. I just saw her on TV after she became famous." She reached out and wiped away the non-existent tears. Actually, how could things be like what she said? It was clear that she had deliberately abandoned Xia Yu because she disliked him for being unhealthy. It was a fluke that Xia Yu survived. But she couldn't tell these truths to the outside world. She had to pretend to be an innocent victim in order to gain sympathy from others and win Xia Yu's sympathy. Xia Shijuan continued, "Over the years, I have always missed her, and I have thought about going out to find her many times. But to tell you the truth, our Xia family has strict rules. Unless we have a special permission, we cannot leave this house. Damn it! I have no choice but to endure it and not recognize my daughter." Aunt Lu showed sympathy in a cooperative manner. "Xia Yu must miss you too." "Who says it's not?" Xia Shijuan said, "In the blink of an eye, the child has grown so big." I said, "Old girl, do you know where Xia Yu is now? Can you help me find her and get married?" There was news about her on TV for a few years, but in the past few years, it was like she disappeared from the world, and I don't know where she went. Aunt Lu couldn't remember that. Compared to the well-known Xia Ling, the name Xia Yu was most well-known because of her sister's existence. As for her later becoming a star and singing by herself, in other words, it has only become popular in the fan circle for a while. It is normal for these uncles and aunts who are not star-chasing to have no impression. Aunt Lu said, "You allow me to go back and check?" "But..." She rolled her eyes, "Old sister, it's not easy to find people in this day and age. Every joint has to be taken care of. Look, Laoya and I are ordinary people, and we don't have much money in our hands. Isn't it true that we have more than we can afford?" Xia Shijuan understood what she meant. She was asking for money. I couldn't help cursing secretly in my heart. "You are a cunning little citizen." On the surface, he pretended to understand, of course. But in fact, do you think I am rich now? Old girl, how about you find a way to make some money first, Matt? When I find that girl Xia Yu, she will recognize her ancestor and return to the clan. When she is happy, why not give you a lot of money? End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 827. Chapter 827 Press Conference. The Xia family's wealth is astonishing, but it is all in the hands of the direct descendants of the family. Other tribesmen have lived in the mountains for generations. They farm, repair houses, and take care of the landscape under the management of their own families. They exchange their labor for generous rewards and live a more prosperous and happy life than ordinary people in the outside world. However, there are also some people among them who are lazy. They cheat on weekdays and hide from assigned errands. As time goes by, they naturally cannot earn wages and live in poverty. Xia Shajuan's family is in such a situation. The poverty is about to unveil the pot, and there are few in the tribe. That's why she was obsessed with recognizing Xia Yu and trying to enjoy a few days of happiness with her daughter's wealth. Aunt Lu has always been snobbish and shrewd when it comes to money. When she said this, I more or less understood what she meant. She was just trying to gain nothing. She sneered, "Old sister, this is not very kind of you. If Xia Yu disowns you, won't the money I spent be in vain?" Xia Shajuan secretly scolded her for being snobbish, but on the surface, she smiled and said, "That girl is the flesh that fell from my body, how can she deny me? Just let her see what Miss Ling has done after she recognized her ancestor and returned to the clan. Although she is not as noble as Miss Ling, she has been with Phoenix for so long, and the clan will definitely compensate her." Aunt Lu rolled her eyes and thought, this is the same reason. If he could find Xia Yu, he would have done a great job. Xia Yu had received compensation and recognized his biological mother. Xia Shajuan had a daughter and someone to rely on. When everyone was happy, it would be indispensable for him to pay for his benefits. She made up her mind and said to Xia Shajuan with a smile, "Sister, don't be anxious. Seeing you separated from each other makes me feel uneasy. Don't worry, I will definitely get that girl Xia Yu back for you come." Xia Shajuan was relieved. The two of them had their own thoughts, talked and laughed for a while, and then dispersed. The fireworks in the night sky never stopped, reflecting the joyful faces of the Xia clan members as they sang and danced. Xia Ling was also infected by such a joyful atmosphere, and gradually forgot her worries, and spent a pleasant night with Li Lei. The two of them stayed in the mountains for a while, then took Xiao Hui with them and set off back. Patriarch Xia and his family bid farewell to her and brought her a lot of local products, ranging from chickens, ducks, fish and meat raised at home to lucky bags and jade. Mrs. Xia also specially gave her pocket money, this time for 3 whole days. 10 billion. Xia Ling was stunned when she looked at so much money and smiled. "Why do I think this money is so easy to make?" She thought that when she was living outside, she almost sold herself to raise money for her sister's medical treatment in her first life. Pei Xian was not much better in his second life. He was forced to stay in the training camp in order to repay the debt left by the original owner of his body. Nowadays, there are so many billions easily available, but she no longer has any reason to be urgently short of money. Catalog plays a trick on people. Mrs. Xia also laughed, "You have endured all the hardships. If you need money in the future, just come back and get it. We are old and live in the mountains, so we don't need anything. But you are still young. You have to be alone in the colorful world outside. I have some money." He also told her that if she was bullied outside, she must tell her family. Xia Ling nodded one by one and wrote down these instructions. On the way back, she took Xiao Shaowai and Li Lei in a car, while Aunt Lu and Father Ye still sat in the back. Aunt Lu felt unbalanced and poked Father Ye and said, "Did you see that the Xia family gave that smelly girl a lot of things, big and small, but what about us? Nothing." "Yes," Father said dully, "everyone has recognized my daughter." Aunt Lu was indignant, "So what? This girl was raised by us. You can get some money just by raising a cat or a dog and selling it to others. You raised this girl for nothing. Those Xia family members are also indifferent. I don't even understand the explicit and implicit suggestions, and you don't give us anything at all. It's so shameless." Recalling the scene when she went to the steward Xia Haikeo to ask for something, but was ridiculed and driven back with a gun and a stick, Father Ye felt particularly embarrassed and said, "You can't save yourself some trouble." "Did you teach me a lesson then?" Aunt Lu yelled. "I'm not here for this family." Yes, Father was silent and silent. This trip to the Xia family was really terrible. After returning to the city, Aunt Lu wanted to get some money to spend, so she immediately called the tabloid reporter. "Hey, Reporter Qian? I have a breaking story here. Big news. Let me tell you, it turns out that our Ye Xingling, she was actually recognized as the reincarnation of Queen Xiaoling. And do you know who she is? The biological parents of Queen Xiaoling who died have finally been found." She chattered a lot, foaming at the mouth and excited. At the end, he asked, "Journalist Jian, please tell me how much money you can give me for such a big news." Unexpectedly, reporter Jian yawned loudly. "Lu Zayadai, please stop messing around. Didn't you receive enough warning from Mr. Chu Chen back then? Let me tell you, Mr. Chu Chen not only warned you, but he also warned me not to dig out any news about Miss Ye Xingling from you, so don't come to me." Aunt Lu was anxious. "That was then, and now is now. Why are you so out of your mind? You don't want such big news." "What big news?" Reporter Qian sneered. "You didn't read today's headlines, did you? The news you mentioned has been reported a long time ago. It was announced by the mysterious Xia family personally. It will be released tonight. There will be a further press conference, which is much more reliable than the information you have here. Hang up, I have to go to the press conference." Without any explanation, she hung up the phone. Aunt Lu stared at the phone for a long time, and then hurriedly flipped through the news. She didn't know what to look for, but she was shocked when she saw that the screen was full of news about Ye Xingling's recognition of her relatives, and that she was Xiaoling reincarnation. "We, the Xia family, believe in reincarnation," said a spokesman for the Xia family. "There are many legends about reincarnation in the world. For example, in the Qing dynasty, Emperor Qianlong recognized He Shen as the reincarnation of his beloved woman, and many the Xia family believes that Miss Ye Xingling is the reincarnation of Miss Xiaoling. Their singing, voices and smiles are all similar to some extent. Therefore, Miss Xiaoling's biological father and the patriarch of our Xia family, accepting Miss Ye Xingling as my daughter is a fulfillment of my long-cherished wish." Next, it's about how Xiaoling became an orphan when she was living abroad, how the Xia family later adopted Xiao Shaowai by mistake, and then discovered that Xiao Shaowai's mother was the reincarnation of Xiaoling. All kinds of stories, after being beautified and processed, removed the shocking content, and turned it into a moving story with a touch of legend that can be accepted by the general public, which makes people sigh. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 828. Chapter 828 Climbing a High Branch. Many fans have mixed feelings. To a certain extent, today's Ye Xingling does have the charm of Xiaoling back then. Over the years, Ye Xingling's fans have argued with Xiaoling's fans many times for this reason. Although some Xiaoling fans later became Ye Xingling fans, some still insisted that Ye Xingling was just Xiaoling's fans. Ling's imitators, no matter how high achievements Ye Xingling achieves, they will always be inferior to Xiaoling, who became after her death. That is the eternal belief in the hearts of many people. Until the Xia family held this press conference, claiming that Ye Xingling was the reincarnation of Xiaoling. Those fans who were still holding on finally had their last psychological defense broken, and many of them joined the Ye Xingling fan group. Although many of them intellectually believe that reincarnation is unscientific, it is like an illusory dream, so beautiful that even if it is a lie, people cannot help but believe it. Overnight, the streets were buzzing with topics about her. Xiaoling stood in front of a floor-to-ceiling mirror, taking care of her long hair carefully. Today she was going to shoot a musical narrative poem about a wealthy daughter. She needed to dress herself up luxuriously and elegantly, wearing a specially customized dress and diamonds. Jewelry, the white and delicate skin seems to be glowing and beautiful. Lin Yunan walked into the dressing room and looked her up and down. You have been the most professional in dressing up for so many years. He had always been stingy in praising her, especially when she often traveled to various places to do various private things and delayed her work. He spoke sarcastically, "Busy man, you have something to do again." Xiaoling had long been accustomed to his tone of voice. She carefully pinned an exquisite hair accessory to the end of her hair. Without looking back, she looked at Lin Yunan in the mirror. "What's going on this time?" Lin Yunan said, "It was very difficult to hide such an earth-shattering life experience from me." Xiaoling has been very patient recently, so she didn't urge him to speak directly. She just said lightly, "Isn't it just that I recognized my parents? Is it worth making such a fuss for you?" Lin Yunan said, "Am I making such a fuss? The media and the people outside don't know which Xia family it is, don't I know? He was also a wealthy and noble son, well informed, and there was a rumor that had long been quietly circulated in the upper-class society, saying that the Xia family is the Xiaoquashi family whose whereabouts are erratic. If such a family background is not earth-shattering enough, then what is? I finally understand now," Lin Yunan sighed. "I was still surprised before that Pei Xian was so generous. Not only did he give you 10 billion to start a company during the divorce, but he also added several billion more in capital injection later. In fact, the money doesn't belong to Pei Xian at all, right? It was given to you by the Xia family from the beginning to the end." Xiaoling smiled, "Yes, that's right." Lin Yunan held his head and wailed, "I'm so stupid, really. I should have guessed that you are super white, rich, and beautiful. Why did it take me so many years of working with you to realize it? You are really, really good at hiding it." After Xiaoling finished arranging her long hair, she looked around at her clothes in the mirror. After finding nothing wrong, she turned around to face Lin Yunan and smiled, "What does it matter if she is super white, rich, and beautiful?" In the end, she turned around and faced Lin Yunan. "The important thing is that I have a family, they treat me well and I love them very much." Lin Yunan looked at her for a long time. "Are you really the reincarnation of Xiaoling?" She half-truthed, "What do you think?" Lin Yunan's eyes were a little dark. "If someone else said this, I wouldn't believe it, but the Xia family is different. This family has the power to reach the heavens and the earth. It's so mysterious. What they believe is not impossible." Xiaoling sneered. "What are you talking about? Don't you think about how old I was when Xiaoling passed away? That is, the Xia family. When they found their daughter, they found that her daughter was already dead. They also saw that Xiaoling and I were somewhat similar, and they happened to adopt her. After passing Shui, they recognized me as their daughter." Really, Lin Yunan was skeptical. "If I could really be reincarnated, I would have been captured by the country and cut into pieces for study. How could I still stand here and make announcements?" Xiaoling shrugged, but her elegance was not compromised at all. "In fact, what she said is not false. She has not been arrested and sliced into pieces. On the one hand, there is no power that can offend the Xia family. On the other hand, it is also because many people regard this matter as nonsense. Reincarnation, or something, is just a kind of beautiful sustenance. No one really believes it." Lin Yunan was also puzzled by what she said, and felt that her outlook was a little confused. However, Xiaoling smiled and said happily, "This setting is quite easy to use. Xiaoling is reincarnated and the phoenix is reborn. How cool it is. Lin Yunan. He now believes that this stupid girl cannot be the reincarnation of some kind of phoenix. How could there be such a stupid phoenix?" He rolled his eyes at the sky and changed the subject. "I really have something to do with you. You have accepted the Xia family and you have reached the sky in one step. But have you ever considered the feelings of your biological parents? I mean the pair from the Ye family. Someone went to interview them and asked them to talk about their opinions on your adoption into the Xia family. Your father looked sad, and a tabloid reporter took a photo with a text saying that you dislike the poor and love the rich, and you don't even want your father in order to climb high. Xiaoling looked confused. Uncle Haikeo, the top steward of the Xia family, told me that he has already greeted the Ye family and asked them not to express their opinions to the outside world. They will abide by it. The Xia family's way of greeting is quite unique. If it is violated, it is simply not a word that can be described as miserable, so no one will violate it. Lin Yunan believed that she was not the reincarnation of some phoenix. Miss, what's your IQ? Yejia Shimei expressed his opinion, but you can't stop her face from looking ugly. Just that expression, the reporter can figure it out just by taking a picture. There's a lot of content to add, and you don't know how rich the imagination of those paparazzi is. At the end, don't forget to add another touch. You didn't really want to marry me just to climb a high tree, right? Xiaoling was angry. The Xia family can't wait to recognize me. Lin Yunan then nodded in understanding. That's no wonder. Who dares to refuse the Xia family's request? He looked at Xiaoling with some sympathy. Tut, even if he could become relatives with the Xia family, how many people would laugh out of their dreams? It's a great thing, but after all, she has to be separated from her biological parents. Even if her biological father and stepmother are scum, I'm afraid it won't be without a little pain. Xiaoling felt that Lin Yunan understood this direction very well, and happily decided that if anyone asked her the same question in the future and thought she was trying to climb a high tree, she would just use this answer to deal with it. She was in a happier mood and didn't take the reports about the Ye family's parents to heart at all. She just said, just watch and deal with it. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 829. Chapter 829. Who is the wolf-hearted person? Lin Yunan was about to say something when suddenly, Assistant Wei Wei hurriedly walked in. Sister Xiaoling is not well. Ye Xingfei suddenly ran to the scene. Outside, a large group of reporters gathered and said they wanted to argue with you. Before Xiaoling could react, Lin Yunan had already ran out like a whirlwind. She hurriedly followed and went out to take a look. It was indeed very lively outside. A dozen reporters were surrounding a young girl with guns and cannons, talking all over the place. Miss Ye Xingfei, what do you think of this time when Miss Ye Xingling left? Ye Xingling, what do you think? You just said that she has no conscience and is unfilial. Is that true? At the door, there were several bodyguards and security guards holding a cordon and controlling the situation. Ye Xingfei was wearing a pink dress. It was the first time she was surrounded by so many reporters. She was obviously a little nervous and unaccustomed, but she still stumbled and said, "Sister is so unfilial. Why did she suddenly adopt her without even saying hello? Did she go to someone else's house? Does she know how sad her father is these days?" A flash of light flashed at her. I don't know who shouted, "Ye Xingling is out." Everyone turned around and saw Xiaoling standing on the steps at the door, wearing an exquisite little dress, with no expression on her fair face. All the cameras turned around, gave up on Ye Xingfei, and started taking pictures of her. Ye Xingfei also turned around and saw her sister. She was a little timid at first, like a little girl who was caught red-handed talking bad about people behind their backs. But after a few seconds, she straightened her back and asked loudly, "Sister, why do you abandon us and this family? You already make enough money, is it necessary to give up family ties for the sake of glory and wealth?" She was really sad and shocked. She didn't understand why her sister would do this. Originally, she thought she had woken up and could continue to be intimate with her sister, but her sister didn't want her anymore. Tears fell on her face. "You are so heartless." Xiaoling has never been a good-tempered person. When she heard such an inexplicable accusation, she had to endure it before she got angry immediately. She looked at this so-called sister coldly. Fei, have you had enough trouble? If you don't know anything, don't talk nonsense. I'll have someone take you home. I don't. Yezingfei stared at her and yelled, yes, I don't understand anything, but I also know etiquette, justice, and shame. I know who raised me. You are so cold-blooded, you have forgotten the kindness of your parents in raising you. The reporters around them kept flashing their lights. The diva had a quarrel with her sister in the street. What a big news. Xiaoling frowned as she knew that if she continued like this, she might be reported as such. She was about to ask someone to help Yezingfei away, when suddenly she saw a powerful and domineering modified off-road vehicle parked on the side of the road. A man got out of the car, his shirt was slightly open, revealing a small piece of beautiful light brown skin. Come. As soon as he appeared, he attracted everyone's attention. The cameras turned around again and took pictures of him frantically. It's Li Lei. Boss Li is here. There was a commotion among the reporters. Looking at his face that was about to be stormed, the originally noisy crowd fell silent unconsciously, and you could hear the drop of a pin. Li Lei's face was as dark as water. He strode up to Yezingfei and looked down at the girl. Didn't your family teach you not to make trouble in the street? When he didn't smile, he had a majestic and murderous air, which frightened Yezingfei. Ju took a step back, stumbling a little. You, who are you? She asked stutteringly. I am your brother-in-law, Li Lei said. I just heard you say that your sister is unfilial. Let me tell you, even if everyone in the world says she is unfilial, you and your Ye family are not qualified to do so. Do you know what did she look like when she was first selected into the Tianyi training camp? She was bruised, and she didn't know who had beaten her. She always wore old clothes. Those photos are still kept in the training camp. Do you want to take them? Come out and show it to everyone? You were in a car accident. In order to raise money to save you, she knelt down to Tanying in public. Do you know this? She paid back millions for you. Not to mention your subsequent hospitalization expenses and nutrition expenses. It's all solved through her relationship and ability. Your so-called parents never contributed a penny or any effort. And what about herself? When she was in the training camp, she often couldn't receive living expenses from her family and had no other source of income. She could only work in the cafeteria washing dishes. In the winter, her fingers were swollen like carrots. After washing, I had to go to dance practice, my frostbite was broken, and there was blood everywhere in the dance studio. I was scolded by the teacher and looked down upon by my classmates. Where were you Ye family members at that time? Yezingfei was stunned and couldn't say a word. The people around were all stunned. Regarding the past of Queen Ye Xingling, all they knew before was the information released by the official after screening, such as her hard work, diligence and studious, etc. They never knew that before she became famous, her life is so miserable. Li Lei continued, Xiaoling is such a proud person. After her debut, she never mentioned this matter. Even in some variety shows where she was more miserable and pitiful, she would always say that her family was fine. What did you get in exchange for keeping all these hardships in your heart? Now you are calling her a wolf-hearted person. Who is the one who is so cruel? The day you woke up from the hospital, she was so happy that she put off the announcements at hand and put down the phone to see you. But what about you? How did you treat her? Knowing that she was a big star and a public figure, a large group of reporters have gathered here to spread negative news about her. She is really hurting you for nothing. Li Lei's tone was very serious, and his whole person was full of murderous aura. Yezingfei was so frightened that he backed away and fell to the ground. Xiaoling was also shocked. She didn't expect that he would still remember those past events that she could barely remember. Although many of the tragic stories happened to the real Ye Xingling, Xiaoling did pay for this so-called sister. Many times, for example, In order to pay off debts and stay in the entertainment industry, he fell into Pei Xian's clutches again and again. Without that car accident and that debt, maybe everything would be different. She looked at Li Lei and said softly, "It's not worth getting angry about these things." Li Lei also looked at her, his originally violent eyes softened, and he walked towards her step by step. The crowd automatically separated to both sides, leaving a path large enough for him to pass. Li Lei walked up the steps, held Xiaoling's hand, and whispered, "Go in." He led her into the building again. It was as if everyone had woken up from a dream. The flash clicked again, and he hurriedly took a picture of the two people's backs holding hands. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 830. Chapter 830, What are you going to do to kill me? Lin Yunan just came to his senses and ordered the security guards, "Why don't you help Miss Ye Xingfei down to rest?" The security guards quickly took Ye Xingfei away, half dragging her away. Seeing that there was no new information, the reporters did not stay long and rushed back to publish their reports. The revelations this time were quite sufficient. Big Boss Li revealed so many past events about the diva, which was enough to cause an uproar in the fan circle and keep them talking and moved for a long time. In the building, Xiaoling and Li Lei walked into the lounge. Xiaoling asked him, "Why are you here?" Li Lei was still angry and said, "I originally picked you up for dinner, but I didn't expect to encounter such a thing as soon as I got off the car. Don't you know how to send someone to deal with it? Why are you joining in the fun by yourself?" Xiaoling looked at him and smiled. It felt really good to be protected by him just now. She stretched out her hand and pulled his cheek. "Are you angry? Don't be so unhappy, it's such a big deal. Ye Xingfei is just a little girl, what's there to care about? She's not sensible yet. Is it okay for a little girl to talk nonsense?" Li Lei disagreed. "You should stay away from her in the future. Everyone in the Ye family will not acknowledge your love, so it will be a clean break." Xiaoling nodded. Okay, originally, she wanted to help her sister. After all, the real Ye Xingling would miss her sister until her death. But now it seems that there is no need to get too close. Ye Xingfei is such a naive little girl, and it would be harmful to her to be exposed to the spotlight before she matures. Just as he was thinking about it, he saw Lin Yunan coming over. "Xiaoling, that sister of yours is really difficult to deal with. She has been crying since she was helped into the lounge, and she was clamoring to go back. How dare I let her out? What if she wanders around again? What should I do if I talk nonsense?" He looked at her and Li Lei. "You guys should make up your mind. She is no longer Xiaoling's sister," Li Lei said. "I made a slip of the tongue." Lin Yunan didn't care at all. "Tell me, what should I do?" Xiaoling also felt that this matter was a bit troublesome. If she was in the first year of junior high school, how could she be in charge of her 15th year? A little girl of this age is much more impulsive than a shrewd and snobbish woman like Aunt Lu. She might get excited and do something reckless at some point. You can't threaten Aunt Lu the same way you threatened her. Xiaoling is in trouble. Li Lei said, "It's better to send her to Tianyi training camp." Send her to Tianyi training camp? Xiaoling was confused at first, then suddenly realized and smiled. "This is a good idea. Why didn't I think of it? Ye Xingfei wanted to be a big star, so it happened to be that she was sent to the training camp. Cultivation will temper your patience and temper your temper. The training camp is Li Lei's territory. As long as Ye Xingfei enters, there will be no trouble." Li Xiaoli said proudly, "I will let Tan Ying control her well." Xiaoling pinched his cheek again and said, "You are still smart." She walked into the lounge next door in a good mood to tell Ye Xingfei her decision. In the lounge next door, Ye Xingfei had just fallen, her elbows were bruised, and her clothes were dusty and dirty. She walked around anxiously and yelled at the bodyguards who were guarding her, "Why don't you let me out? I want to go home. I want to see Ye Ling. Do you want to go home or see me? Xiaoling's voice came from the door. Ye Zingfei suddenly turned around and saw her standing in an exquisite little dress. Her cloud-like hair was well taken care of, her accessories were shining, she looked noble and beautiful. Looking back at her own embarrassment, Ye Zingfei suddenly felt ashamed, and then she became angry. Ye Ling, now that you have become famous, you don't want us relatives, and you let others bully me, right? The bodyguard on the side looked cold. Why are you talking to Miss Ling? She has now left the Ye family and recognized her ancestors and returned to the Xia family. The Xia family has made it clear and public that the name Xiaoling is registered in the genealogy. Therefore, it is inappropriate to call her Ms. Ye now. However, calling her Ms. Only calling her Miss Ling is the most appropriate title, and it has gradually been accepted by the public in recent days. Ye Zingfei was frightened when she was scolded by the tall bodyguard. She bit her lip and stopped talking, but she still looked unconvinced. Xiaoling said calmly, "You really want to become famous, don't you?" Ye Zingfei didn't know why, and said angrily, "What does it have to do with you? Who doesn't want to be famous these days? You don't need to laugh at me or ridicule me for this. Back then, your singing was not as good as mine." The bodyguard on the side was about to get angry again, but Xiaoling raised her hand slightly to stop him. She looked at Ye Zingfei, with a smile on her lips, and said arrogantly, "Do you know what the saying is, I just like the way you hate me but can't kill me. You, don't go too far." Ye Zingfei's chest rose and fell violently, and she was about to explode with anger. Xiaoling laughed again, "Did I say something wrong? Ye Zingfei, look at how you look now, what's the difference between you and your mother, the shrew? You are broke now, what can you do to kill me? What if you hate me again? What do you think? Is it a big deal if you can find a few reporters to use so-called negative news to bite off a piece of my flesh? I have a large public relations team to accompany you. How can you, a little girl, survive?" Ye Zingfei was speechless by her refutation, and could only say bitterly, "My mother is not a shrew. Ye Ling, please don't slander me. I hate you, no, I hate you." This is a very complicated hatred. As early as the moment she woke up from a vegetative coma and opened her eyes, she was unwilling to accept it. Why was she so glorious and dazzling back then, now unknown? But the obedient sister who was by his side at first shines brightly? But she felt faintly guilty in her heart, feeling that she shouldn't hate her sister, so she suppressed this thought. Now that she heard her sister ridiculing her mother, it was as if all her resentment had an outlet. She could openly express her hatred for her sister and then defend her mother's name. "I hate you, I hate you, I hate you," she yelled again. Xiaoling was unmoved. There were so many people who hated her that they could wait all the way to the Pacific Ocean in 2 lifetimes. There was no shortage of a harmless little girl like her. To be honest, compared to my sister Xiaoyu in her previous life, an ignorant and shallow silly girl like Ye Zingfei is nothing but a scumbag. Xiaoling looked at Ye Zingfei, "If you hate me, just find a way to defeat me." "Then I can't defeat you," Ye Zingfei said, "one day, I will trample you under my feet." This is her real wish. End of this chapter.